First off, before we go over the features of DeepTech Vista X, make sure your batteries are in the holder correctly, round the right way and touching the terminals at each end. You then place the battery pack so the terminals are at the bottom and slide the battery pack in as so. Once you've placed the battery pack in, you place on the cap and turn to the right. Make sure it's nice and firm and the unit is sealed correctly. So now you've done that, you can switch on your DeepTech Vista X. Off to the left hand side of the battery compartment is your headphone port. So now let's talk about gain. Now gain is the overall power of the machine. So when you increase the gain, you'll be getting better penetration into the soil. Also, when you decrease the gain, you'll be getting less penetration into the soil. So you adjust that accordingly to the soil conditions. So if you're in mineralized ground, you want to reduce the gain to see better through the soil. And when you're in light mineralized soils, you increase the gain to get better penetration through the ground. Now I'm going to briefly touch on threshold because threshold will alter on the final product compared to the test unit I have here. But in general, the threshold is an audio modulation, so you can hear the difference between targets. You'll hear the difference between shallow items and deeper items. So the deeper items will be more smoother compared to the shallow items will be more zappy, more intensity to them. So you'll be able to gauge the depth via the threshold audio. Now also with the threshold on the final product, you will have the constant hum, so that will be an aid to ground balance, and also the threshold is there to settle the machine down, so you'll be able to hear the changing ground. So when the actual ground balance changes, you'll hear that through the audio in the threshold. It's just a good all-round aid that will help you out in the field, but I'll be making a new video talking about the threshold before the product release. So now we move on to your alternative discrimination. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's an alternative discrimination, and you operate the alternative discrimination by pushing forward either of the toggle switches underneath the control box. I will talk a little bit more about the alternative discrimination in a segment coming up shortly. This dial is your iron audio volume. You can class it as your discrimination volume. When you have it set all the way to the top or a maximum, you will hear the discriminated items as a low tone. When you set the iron audio to 0, you will be running a silent search mode. I will give you a small demonstration on the iron audio very shortly in this video. This next dial is your ground balance dial. This is a manual adjustment in order to cancel out the mineralization in the ground. It's a very easy manual operation, and I will show you how to do this in an upcoming segment in the video. This dial is your overall volume for the machine. You raise or lower depending on your hearing needs. This dial is your standard discrimination. This discrimination runs constantly while in your general search mode. Now you can either raise this or lower it to your desired amount, but I suggest you keep this as low as possible, just to break on small nails while searching for the maximum performance out of your DeepTech Vista X. So now we move on to the toggle switches underneath the control box. Now when you pull the switch towards you, you are running in all metal mode, so non-ferrous and ferrous items will all give a high tone. When you push the toggle switch towards the coil away from you, then you are running your alternative disc mode. And when you release the toggle switch, you are running in your standard search mode. Now both switches have exactly the same purpose, and they're placed on both sides to make it easy for left and right hand user detectorists. Now we move on to ground balancing your DeepTech Vista X. This can be done in numerous ways. You can either bob the coil up and down whilst in two-tone mode, listen for the audio change. You can bob the coil up and down and listen for the audio change in all metal mode. Or if you're experienced enough, you can do it in either mode while sweeping the coil left and right over the ground and listen for the audio change. But first off, you must start with the ground balance in the position shown in the picture. But for this demonstration, I'm going to show you in two-tone mode. I found a clean patch of ground. Now I'm raising and lowering the coil and listen for the audio change. Now I'm adjusting the ground balance dial till I make the machine fall silent as possible. As you can hear, I got it pretty much spot on first time just there. Go too far, you'll hear a low tone. If you need more audio feedback, increase your threshold and gain, so you're getting more information coming back from the soil to make it easier for your ears to hear what's going on with the soil conditions. Keep on adjusting until you get it near or as silent as you can. That's the idea of the ground balance on the DeepTech Vista X. So about there will do me just fine. Then I set my threshold to really settle the machine down just fine, so it's very silent indeed. And I'm good to go. Now it don't matter if you're into the red or into the white on the ground balance. As long as it's silent, you'll be okay. So once you've ground balanced your DeepTech Vista X, you need to set your threshold. Now you set this ideally so the machine is stable, so you're not hearing any audio feedback coming from the soil. You don't want to hear any false signals or anything that can make you believe there's a target or make you miss a target because you can't hear clear signals. Them little tiny signals you need to hear, so you don't need any soil feedback coming through to your ears. So you set it just so it's running nice and silent. So just here, I will give you a quick demonstration of how the second or alternative discrimination works. I have a nice clean target in my standard discrimination mode. Push the trigger forward and that activates my alternative discrimination mode, and you can hear it low tones. Now I release the trigger switch and it takes me back into my standard discrimination where the target is a high tone. So previously I dug a little bit of foil that gave a high tone on my standard discrimination but a low tone on my alternative discrimination. So I'm going to bury this to show you how the alternative discrimination works. As said before, the alternative discrimination is there to knock out unwanted items such as foil or certain coins or anything you wish not to dig. But your standard discrimination, keep as low as possible. Your alternative discrimination, you run to the point that you want to knock out certain items. As you can hear, at that point, foil is still giving a high tone. So I keep on raising until the foil gives a low tone. So when in general searching, I come across a signal, I can push the trigger switch forward to see if it's an item I wish to dig or if it's an item I wish to discriminate.